We are live. Hi, everybody. It is this week's episode of LDTV Talk. We do this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, where I interview an entrepreneur who is really inspiring and has a great inspiring story. And if any of you out there have a soft spot for animals, you are going to definitely want to stay tuned to hear all about Tina Franks McGovern and her fabulous work with animals and with people, not only from a holistic health standpoint, but from a rescue standpoint and a foster standpoint. Her story is amazing. And as we, go through the interview, she'll tell you some of the things that she's involved with, how she got to where she is. Tina and I know each other through Facebook. We are connected through a couple of communities, and her posts are ones that really touch my heart. And because of that, from the minute I decided to launch LDTV last September, she has been on my list of people that I wanted to interview because, I am a lover of animals. I grew up having a dog in New York City. That's a little difficult. So we've had cats all our lives in New York City. And I love all animals. So not necessarily snakes, but everything else other than reptiles go on that list. I know there are probably animal lovers out there that say they're all God's creatures and everything, but they are kind of ugly and they scare the shit out of me. So I have to be honest with you. Anyway,
I love it.
I'm gonna ask you to start.
Yeah.
Because obviously somebody who devotes so much time to rescue and foster and making sure these animals have the best home possible is somebody who loves animals. So take us back to when your love of animals first started to blossom, and was there something that was a catalyst for this, for this real love of our four-legged friends?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on your show. I love you. You know I do. I love everything that you do. You're fabulous, and just spreading such greatness. I think it's wonderful. So thank you. I'm blessed. So here's the funny thing about my journey with animals is that growing up, we never had a dog. Isn't that wild? So no, we had rabbits. And because my parents worked full time, we were busy with schedules and everything else. And so we never actually had a dog. My first dog, I got in 2000. So it's not been that long, right? But whatever it is, I've always had this passion for animals. For the longest time, I wanted to be a veterinarian. For the longest time. I think almost everyone has wanted to do that who has that passion, right? But it just didn't work. It wasn't in the cards. And so, but I've had rabbits, I've had birds and dogs, but there's just something special about dogs that I'm just so attracted to. It's their energy. It's just how unconditional love they have. They're just wonderful, wonderful creatures. And that's kind of what started me. Just I don't know. There's just something that I think you're attracted to certain animals for whatever reason. Maybe it's my spirit animal. I believe we all have one of those too.
It could be, definitely.
And that's it.
So before the rescue portion, were you a dog mom?
So yes. So the answer is yes. So my first dog was Super Bowl Sunday of the year 2000 when the Titans were playing. That is why my very first dog, my Jack Russell, was Titan. And that's what I named my business after too, to honor him. Titans Touch Canine Massage. And so, so prior to owning that first dog, Titan, I was never involved in rescue. Isn't that insane? But I'm trying to think of what happened, and
Right,
it just kind of happens. I don't know. I don't know that I planned it. I don't
right.
know, as in life, things just kind of
Things happen. They
happen.
find you. They find you. So Titan
Yes.
was a rescue?
So unfortunately, Titan was not, because this is where my whole education began.
Okay.
Um, because I was very naive, or I didn't know. And so that's where my passion comes from too, is that when you know better, you do better,
Right.
right? And so I had no idea. I ended up buying Titan, which I'm not
Well,
real
that's
proud of.
think I don't think we have to judge. There are all kinds of motivations for why people choose breeders or why
Right.
they choose pet shops, and I don't want, obviously you go through the whole process of rescue and foster, but for some people that's a scary process. So no judgment. So you bought Titan.
So that's what I did. And so he was fabulous. Oh my gosh, this
Jack
dog had
Russells are such characters.
he's such person. Well, he's a Jack Russell. And so honest to God, you either love a Jack Russell or you don't. Like, I haven't found anyone with the in between with the Jack, because they're so high energy, and he was
Oh yeah.
fabulous. And he was total whim, total whim. I'm just going to do this. I remember it was snowing. I didn't care. My mother was like, go straight home. I said, no, just my hair in the dog. I do my own thing. And so that's so prior to Titan, I was not involved with rescue. And it wasn't until let me think, it was about 6, 7 years ago is when I really started getting into rescue.
Uh-huh. Can we see that little ear?
Oh,
Can we see more
oh,
of that? That's Lady.
here's Lady. Here she is. Say
Oh
hi.
my God, she's
Oh,
gorgeous. So,
she's a great dog.
so as you can see, for anybody who can identify a dog breed, Lady is a pit bull,
She is.
and pit bulls are terrifying animals to a lot of people because
Mhm.
they don't know the good side of a pit bull. They only hear the Michael Vick horror story
Yes.
about pit bulls. So,
Yeah.
Tina, tell us if you're going to tell us about how 6 or 7 years ago you got involved. Was Lady the first rescue that that you had, or when did that start? And then how did Lady come to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because again, nothing was planned. It just kind of transpired.
And was
So,
Titan, I'm sorry, was Titan still alive at that time?
yes,
Okay.
he was. Yes. And so what happened was, someone that I knew said, "Hey, can you watch my dog for me?" Sure, no problem. Went out of town, never came back. Total lost, right? No contact, no message, no. It was crazy. And so I was like, what am I going to do with this dog? It was a boxer Rottweiler mix, 110 pounds something. And my kids, I think at the time, were like 2 and 4,
Oh
something like
God.
that. Oh my God, the tail. I get whacking the kids into the refrigerator. Anyway, I was like, what am I going to do at that? And again, at that point, I had no idea what rescue was, how to get involved, what to do. There was a local rescue close to me called Blue Chip. And I contacted them. I said, I don't even know what to do, how to even start. Because once you get involved, you don't even, on the outside, you don't know all of the things that actually transpire inside, if that makes sense.
Oh,
And so
okay.
um, I didn't know how to do adoptions. I didn't know how to do vet checks, home checks, all of those things that happen. And so I reached out to this organization, and they agreed to take, his name was Sparky, to take Sparky on, as long as I would continue to foster. Didn't have had no intentions of fostering, but that's how my whole story began. He got adopted to a beautiful family. And then after that happened, that Blue Chip got in touch with me again and said, "Hey, we have 3 pit bulls that were left in a kennel, same situation. The owner went, never came back." Crazy, right? And said, "Would you be able to foster?" And here's the funny situation. My husband's a police officer, and he was like, "No pit bulls in the house." Remember, my kids are young.
Exactly.
right? And he was like, nope, it's not happening. And I said, well, why don't we just go meet her at the kennel and see what happens? All of us went there. Do you know that lady, went and sat right next to Tom? Right next. I'm like, she chose you. And
Right.
that's what dogs do. Dogs choose you.
Right.
And so that's when this whole fostering really began for me and my family. And it's been a crazy ride ever since. And Lady, so with her being the pit bull, she had a lot of issues, right? We think that she came from an environment where there was abuse because even to this day, when my kids start getting like running around the house and crazy, she gets very on edge.
Right.
So that's what we think. And so she stayed with us for 4 months. Nobody had any interest in her, and we said, well, she's been home all the time. This is her home now, and we adopted her.
Husband, how long did it take for him? Well, first of all,
Yeah, I know it's a crazy story.
bring her home. So how long did she stay by his side before he said, "Okay, we'll take her home"?
Like a hot second. Because he's a dog lover just like I am, like we all
Right.
are. And so when you meet her in person, like she literally melts your heart. My parents are like, Lady can stay with us overnight anytime,
Right. Yeah.
She's a sweet girl.
She's a beautiful dog, and as I said, I've seen her on your Facebook post, and she just always looks like such such a wonderful animal. So,
Yeah.
okay, so Lady comes there, you still have Titan,
Hmm.
they get along,
Hmm.
you're working with Blue Chip.
Hmm.
Were you actively pursuing Blue Chip to give you more, or how did it work?
No, and so this is I'm telling you, life is crazy, right? It takes you on these twists and turns, and that's just how it is. And so after we adopted Lady, I found a rescue online called Rescue Dogs Rock Animal Rescue out of Franklinville, New Jersey. There was a pit bull that just touched me. Like I said, there's some animals that, you read their stories and they touch you, but you kind of move on. This dog just broke my heart in a million pieces. And his story was just of horrific conditions, yet he was still thriving. And so I thought, you know what? I looked into the rescue. I love the mission. I love the owner of the rescue. Ginny Chappelle is awesome. And I thought, you know what? On a whim, again, I sometimes I do things on whims.
That's
And
good.
I said, I filled out the foster application, sent it in, we got approved. And so for the past 3 years, we fostered 12 dogs so
Wow.
far through that rescue. And two of them have actually come from Egypt with their own little passports.
Oh, I remember the dog that came
Remember?
from Egypt. What was that? What was his name?
So one was Zane. Zane, yes. Remember?
Beautiful dog.
Beautiful dog. And he's over in Egypt. They're called Balatis. The Egyptian dogs that run around on the street, they're Balatis. And he is living the best life right now. I am just so thrilled for him because he came from over in Egypt. You think that we have horrible, abuse over there? It's even worse. So if you can imagine, I mean, he was literally beat with chains. And so when I got him, he had a lot of scars on his face, and he was very shy. And I'll never forget when my daughter went to meet him for the first time. We're very on edge because we don't know, right? She went down. We have a whole decompression area, where the dogs decompress. She went to see him. He was very kind. As soon as she walked away, he put his paw out to touch her hand again to bring it back. Oh, that was it. You know,
I'm sure it was. Oh
I
my,
mean, I've never seen anything like that before, and it was his way of saying thank you. I think.
of course. Yeah, they communicate in such beautiful ways. That is that is so wonderful. So, tell us about the process from the day you get a new foster to the day they're adopted.
Mhm.
What happens? So tell us about Zane. So he came from Egypt. what was the process? So you brought him home. How many dogs did you have in your house at that time?
Oh gosh, I think we had two of ours. So we kind of keep it around three because we can't do more than three.
Right.
So it's usually two of our own and a foster. That's typically how it's worked out for us. So we had two dogs at the time, and it was Lady, and I had her name was Zoe. So I had another Jack at the time. So I had two of them. And so what happens is what's really important for people to understand is that when you get a rescue or you're beginning to foster, there's a whole decompression process that has to happen.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
unfortunately,
really want you to take us through,
yeah.
because I think by taking us through that, people can really kind of let, overcome their fear a little bit about getting a rescue.
Yeah. And I want to touch upon too the difference between like going from adopting a dog from a shelter and then also adopting a dog from a foster home because there's a difference.
Yeah.
But through a foster, so what happens is when we receive a foster from anywhere, there's a whole decompression process because if you think about it, especially from Zane from Egypt, he's on a flight nonstop. I don't know how many hours he was on that flight, 15, 17 hours, whatever it was. And we are not allowed to take them out of their crate when they get to the airport or when we pick them up until we get them in our home because they're a huge flight risk. Any rescue is because they get scared and they
Yeah.
just want to bolt. So that's step one. And then we have a whole area in our, downstairs area where it's just decompression. Like I slept with him that night, that very first night with him downstairs, just to make sure that he was calm, make sure he wasn't scared or anxious or anything like that. So that's what I do. I'm sure everybody else, who's involved with rescue does that because we know, we can sense what they're feeling. And that can happen anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks, to be honest. And so this is what I've learned in that when a new dog enters your home, whether you're adopting or what have you, and you already have dogs, they accept another dog by first smell and then sight and then touch. So that's the order that it goes in, where a lot of times people do these meet and greets and peep these dogs together, and it doesn't always work out. And so what we do is we have the decompression of the new dog. The next step is for them to smell. So while my dogs are outside, I would bring Zane up and take him into one room at a time and get his scent there. He smells my dogs, take him back down to where he decompresses, and then my dogs come in and smell him.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a whole process involved. And then they see each other from afar, like in the yard and through the door, whatever, or through a gate. And then we walk together and they can touch. So that's, I think a lot of people try to rush that
Yeah.
and it's not beneficial.
How long did that take with Zane?
With Zane, it took probably 2 months, maybe. Yeah.
That long?
Yeah. So, and sometimes it can take just a couple days. Like we've had a fosters that come in and we just kind of, we've been doing this for a while and anyone involved in rescue can tell you could kind of figure it out, like what dog is going to do well and what isn't, which dog isn't, and what needs a little extra care.
Uh-huh.
But some dogs is just a couple days and then they're fine. Other dogs, a little bit more. So it depends.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
great. And then they become part of the family,
They
or
do.
do you
They do. And
kind of separate them, or
and again, it's all touch and go. Some dogs, they just come as part of the pack. We've been very fortunate in that the dogs that we've had have all become pack. They're all together. They lay together. They're in the living room together. But we do separate when we're not home. That's really important. We know what our dogs do, but a fosterer is still, you don't really know them.
right?
So during the day, we still separate. And then, when we're home, they're all together. And it's worked beautifully.
That's great. So how long before you get the word out about adoption?
So that is something that Ginny really does a great job at, again, who runs the rescue that I'm involved with. And
Mhm.
she really taps into her fosters and really trusts us, which is really, really great because she is solely a foster-based rescue, whereas some places are both. They have fosters and also a shelter.
Yeah.
So she's strictly foster-based. She does not have a facility. So she trusts us in what we tell her, like, adjusting well, good with other dogs, good with cats, yes or no. And then once all they're up to date on shots, spay, neuter, whatever needs to happen, then she's able to put them on to be adopted. So honestly, again, it could be from a couple weeks to a couple months, depending on the severity of the conditions that they came in.
So you do the fostering, but
Mhm,
you don't have to promote the rescue. But I've seen posts where you are talking about, you know,
mhm.
available, but
I
she's
do.
also doing that, correct?
Yes. Yes. So the rescue does it, the fosters, we do it just to kind of get some more exposure, because we all have different networks
Yeah.
and you never know who's going to see. And that's usually when the magic happens, when we all start sharing amongst each other. And then, like Ricky Spanish, for
Yeah.
example,
Tell
like,
us about Ricky. What is
Rick-
his legacy on Facebook?
Ricky Spanish he has to been, he was the funniest dog I think we've ever had. Ricky Spanish was with us for one of the longest amounts of time. He was with us about 5, 6 months. And turns out a very dear friend of mine adopted him. So she was, and it's all about timing too. I think, you see a dog, you're not ready, and then all of a sudden that dog just comes into your life and it's ready. It's all about timing. But Ricky Spanish, I can't even, he was the first Doberman I've ever fostered, and he's hilarious. He's
Yeah,
so
I
funny.
know. He was another scary dog. I give you credit, Tina. You are bold.
And you know what? And we usually take on like the bully breeds.
Yeah.
The Dobermans, we've had a couple pits. The one pit bull we had, his name was Sammy. He actually went up to an organization in New York called Operation at Ease, where he was trained to be a service dog for a veteran suffering from PTSD.
That's so great. So
Mhm.
before we get into Ricky and
Yeah.
a little more, where did Zane end up going?
So Zane is living in Delaware with a beautiful family, a husband and wife, and he also has a four-legged sibling sister. And he is living the best life. I mean, I think for me and fostering, I think a lot of people are like, I can't foster because I can't let them go.
Right. I would have that. I would have that
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so again, remember how this whole journey started for me was all by accident. So I didn't really
Right.
have a choice, right? There was no way I could keep this 110-pound dog that wasn't an option for me at that time. And so what I've learned is that you are path you're just a pathway
Yes.
for these dogs. And I love it because my kids are like, when are we going to save another life? That's what they ask me.
See, that's how they grew up, knowing, with that they're helping, and then they're helping that dog journey to someone else, which it's a different mindset. So if you're there from the beginning,
Hmm.
that's great. So once this couple in Delaware found Zane,
Hmm.
how do they know? Do they have to drive, or do you do videos for them, or how does
So,
that happen when they're not in your neighborhood?
right, right. And that is usually what happens. Again, we're posting on Facebook all over the place. The rescue is. So they were watching my post for I'm not sure how long, and just posting pictures of Zane and all of this. And again, you're just drawn to a certain dog for a certain reason. And they actually drove to our home to meet him. And they brought Bailey, their female dog, and it just clicked. And Zane jumped in the car, and that was it. And it was done.
Wow.
So that's how that works. So
So
again, it
wait,
all
do
depends.
you ever put a dog on a plane?
I have not. No. I I don't know if we've
Well, you
actually.
want them to meet in person, right? After the whole foster experience, wouldn't you want to kind of know that?
Yes. And I will tell you that for Sammy, the dog that went to Operation at Ease in New York, Sammy was almost one that there was a couple that we were almost going to keep,
Yeah.
and Sammy was one of them. And I remember talking to Joni, who owns or who runs, Operation at Ease. And I was asking her so many questions, like he was my baby, like, what's he going to do? Is he going to be okay? Like,
Right.
I mean, clearly she was more than capable. But you do, as a foster, you do get attached and they're like yours, and you want to make sure that they're going to the right. And I speak to every potential adopter on the phone. I answer every question. So you kind of get a sense too.
Yeah. And how do you make sure that they're caring for them the right way? And does somebody ever, do you ever say, no, you've got to give them back? I mean, what happens in those cases if they didn't get the home that you anticipated that they were going to get?
Yeah. And so that's a great question. This is part of the whole process. So meeting the dog is the very last step in the process of adoption. So first they have to fill out the application, then they have to go through vet references, they have to go through personal references, and then there's a home check. And I can tell you that after a home check, sometimes it's not suitable for the dog, and we have to decline that potential family.
So it's usually done up front. So by the time the paperwork is complete, you're pretty much assured that you've got a
It's
good
a,
match.
it's the very last step because again, we went through all of that checks and balances, and then goes through, phone calls with me and discussion, and then because we know the personality of the dog
Yes.
and we know where they will probably best fit. And again, this is where Ginny trusts us 110%. If we end up meeting that family and it's not a connection, we can tell them no. I mean, it's sad, and I think that's what kind of turns people away sometimes from, going through adoption. But
Yeah,
I
they
think it's
get
important,
rejected.
right? And I think I think people are like, I'll just go and buy. It's just easier. But I think it's important to understand that rescues are particular because we see the situation that a lot of these dogs come in. We had one foster, Mac. My daughter called her Mac and Noodles. It was he was so amazing. But he came and he came from Mississippi, in the bayou in Mississippi, and he came with heartworms. And when he went to get scanned, there was also all like little BB bullets in him. So this is why, a lot of times rescues want to make sure that the dog is going to the right place.
Of course.
They've already lived a life of God knows what
Trauma.
prior.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
How many times do the rescues end up with families that have kids? Because I would think that sometimes that might be difficult. Because
Yeah. And
that specific energy that sometimes, they want to pull on the dog. You know,
yeah. And I think that, I see a lot of that too. A lot of where dogs with children, I think it's important for children to understand and respect the animal.
yeah,
Like, for example, my kids know if you're pulling the tail, if something happens, if the dog comes and, scratch, it's not the dog's fault.
right.
You're told to respect. And I think that's important. I see a lot of, pictures and things of kids on top of dogs and riding them like horses and just no, like I think it's important to also, be able to read the dog's body language, like when they can't speak, right? They can't tell us enough is enough.
Yeah,
And so we have to learn that. I mean, and that's something that I actually just talked about this the other day. When a dog growls, let the dog growl
yeah,
because that's a warning.
yeah,
He or she is telling you that something's not comfortable with them.
yeah,
And so don't, discipline the growl, understand what the situation is around that as to why they're growling and then work on that, if that makes sense.
yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you found that social media has really kind of revolutionized the rescue business. What's the most effective way of communicating, the fact that you've got a particular situation and people can kind of become familiar with the animal before they even have an in-person introduction?
I love social media and the fact that we just share and share. And there's something about when you're involved in rescue, um, we just don't mess with us kind of thing, like we get the job done, and if there's a dog that's in need or if there's a dog that you're interested in, it's all about just connecting and reaching out to those folks and really asking the questions about the dog to make, because again, we want to make sure that it's a perfect fit, if that makes sense.
It does. One of the things that I wanted to touch on was that some people might be hesitant to rescue because in their mind they want a certain breed. So they can still find a rescue dog, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. You know what? I see that all the time, where people are like, well, I want a, a golden retriever or I want a chocolate lab and I can only get that particular dog from a breeder. And while that's true, while what's also true is a lot of the times these shelters and rescue organizations have those pure breed dogs that you're looking for. There's also pure, specific breed rescues out there. If you're looking for a Chihuahua, there's a Chihuahua rescue out there somewhere. And again, even if they're not in your area, there is a way to get that dog to you or for you to them, you know?
So when we're over and we put the links in the LDTV scoop, um, you can, if there's a referral that you have, if anybody is looking for a specific breed,
Hmm.
if you'll, if there is anything like that, you can put that link. That would be great because
Yeah,
I think that's what people do. They have in their mind, oh, I want a French bulldog, but I'm
right,
never going to find a French bulldog to rescue. But that's not necessarily true because
right.
things happen. I mean, my God, California fires and hurricanes and everything. A lot
Hmm.
of times it just, the owners may not want to give them up, but unfortunately,
Hmm.
weather conditions are kind of forcing a situation where they might have to. So they want to give them good homes. So that would be a way to find that. Or the owners pass away
Yes.
and,
We, we,
just can't
we,
take care of them.
yeah, we get a lot of that too, where an owner has is sick or is undergoing chemo or whatever. And we also have situations too where if that is the case, that we can temporarily foster too. So that's, if someone is in that particular situation where they're concerned, they're going to go in the hospital for a couple weeks, rather than surrendering your dog to a shelter,
Yeah.
think about getting in touch with a rescue because many times, we can do temporary.
Oh,
That's
that's
always an option.
now. Is there
Yeah.
a particular association that you could post that to, Tina?
You know what? That's a great need. I don't know that there isn't a particular association per se, but I know that if you reach into your local rescues, like that's something that Rescue Dogs Rock does. In particular situations where, if we have a foster, we can foster the dog for a month, 2 months, whatever it is, and then, the owners can get the dog back.
That's great.
Yeah.
So do you ever find people kind of using you as a substitute for a kennel if they're going on vacation or something? Do they call you and say, I don't want to trust my dog to anybody else?
I had that one happen once. A friend of mine asked, because in her situation, the one dog lived lived his whole life in the kennel, and so he cannot go back to a kennel. So not often, I because it's hard with my dogs and fosters to actually,
I would think.
you know what I mean? And I don't want to like take on too much, you know? I have a lot going on now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your story is incredible, but another aspect to your story that I really think is incredible is the fact that you perform Reiki on animals. So,
Yeah.
first, kind of, if you'll tell everybody, if they're not familiar with Reiki, what Reiki is
Yeah.
and how you came to incorporate that
Yeah.
into everything that you do. Because, Reiki, I find, a tremendous healing force.
Hmm.
But a lot of people may have never experienced Reiki for themselves, or really are unsure about what it is.
Hmm. Yeah. So Reiki. So I have attunements of level 1, level 2, and I'm also a Reiki master. So what that means is that I can actually attune others to Reiki as well. So Reiki is really a Japanese relaxation technique to help your body kind of. I always say to my clients, I'm like a personal set of jumper cables. I remind your body what it can do naturally. So what happens is we all have chakras. Animals, dogs, cats, people, horses, we all have them. And there's 7 of them. And I always explain the chakras as moving up your spine as gears in a clockwise direction because energy moves clockwise. And so if for some reason, so imagine those gears, and if one gets jammed up or starts going the opposite direction, that's when you start feeling anxious, stressed, can't sleep, you're emotional. It's just like you feel like something is not right.
Right.
And so, what Reiki does, Reiki breaks up those energy blockages so that you're flowing all smooth again.
Yeah.
That's like in a nutshell. There's a little bit more, but in a nutshell, that's really what it's all about. And it's really about laying hands on. So it's not like, massage, like I would, deep tissue massage a dog. It's really about, come here, lay, just kind of like laying your hands, on certain parts of the body. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can. So there she
Look
is.
at her. Look at
Yeah.
that beautiful girl. Oh,
So the one thing that I do to calm dogs when they're doing especially with rescues because they're very anxious and nervous. So here is where the heart chakra is there, and then you can make the connection. I don't know if you can see it. Come here, Lay. Down here and through this side. So I
yeah.
make the connection. I don't know. Come here, Lay. She's
She's
here,
doing
let's do it
great.
this way. There we go. Right. And it's just very calming.
Yeah.
And it helps the dogs just really relax. And so, what it is just putting your hands certain parts of their body to help them calm down. And that's the same thing for people as well. It's not that laying on the table, deep tissue stuff. It's
Yeah.
really just about relaxation. And I like to touch, not everybody does, and that's okay. Like you can even lay your hands above
Right.
in the aura, and that's fine too. I like touch because it's more of a personal connection for me, but that's just me.
So if my dog was having issues,
Mhm.
dogs, are very, very frightened around fireworks, around 4th of
Mhm.
July. I know people have a lot of problems with dogs. If I wanted to come in and, if I was in your area or wanted to see somebody here in New York,
Mhm.
what could I expect? Is it an hour, a half hour? Does it vary? How about you? What do you usually do in terms of, say, I wanted to bring my dog in?
Mhm. So here's the cool thing is that I actually go into people's homes and do it for them
Oh, yeah.
because that's where the dog is most relaxed and most at ease, and that's what I do. Um, so here's the unique thing about Reiki with animals is they take exactly what they need and move on. So as opposed to a human where the session is usually an hour,
Yeah.
dogs can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 25 minutes to 45 minutes. So they take what they need. And I actually had a Reiki client. She was a rescue. She wouldn't let me touch her at all. Like, I couldn't do massage at all. That's just how scared she was.
Yeah.
And so I could do Reiki distantly. So I can send Reiki somewhere to somebody, anywhere, because energy knows no time, no space, nothing. Right. And so I sat in the room and she was way on the opposite side, and I started sending. She walked around and laid in front of me and took the Reiki. When she was done, she got up and walked away. And that was it.
So
It
fascinating.
was amazing. Like, the people, the owners were like,
Freaked out.
why didn't I record that? You know what I mean? Because that's just what happened. And, it was amazing. And animals are just, I think they're intuitive. I think they have that energy about them, and they just know what they need, and then they move on. And that's usually what happens.
Yeah. So do you ever perform Reiki on ladies?
I do. She loves Reiki. So with her, a couple of years ago, she tore her ACL. And so, we went for the consult to see what we can do. We opted not for surgery for her. Instead, I did massage on her. And then I also did Reiki, and I used crystals on her too. And she's healed up beautifully. So that's what we decided to do. So
That's
yes, she loves it.
that is bro. I could tell when you were laying your
She
hands on
loves it.
chakras that she was closing her eyes. I mean, she was not. I think she was ready to nod off. It
Yeah, that's what she does. She's so, yeah, she
really
loves it.
so.
Hmm.
Well, speaking of lady, um,
Hmm.
I want you to take this opportunity to really kind of demystify and bust those myths about pit bulls that we have. So, um, obviously, she's a tremendous example because she's been
Oh,
with you now for years, and look at her. She's
she's great.
just gorgeous and beautiful and sweet. But, you know, give us a little bit of an overview of how pits became the Dobermans of 2000.
I think social media, it can be a blessing and a curse at the same time. I really do. And so, it was the Rottweilers, it was the German Shepherds, it was the Dobermans, and now it's just the pit bulls. And I think for me, you either love a pit bull or you don't know enough about them. Because remember, just as my husband, all those 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was like, no pits, she has been a dream. Like, I think it's all about understanding that any dog can be trained to do anything. And I think it's just unfortunate that these dogs are getting such a bad rap because of the dog fighting, because they are so strong, and because that's what the focus is. I'm in so many bully breed groups, and we're all, posting pictures of sweet things like this. You know, I some of the myths are like, oh, do you let the dog sleep with you because they'll just turn like that and like attack you? I don't know whoever came up with that, but no. Like, she sleeps with us all the time. That's not how they're wired. And I think it's really understanding and getting in touch with the the breed, because I mean they're mixed with the whole bunch. I think every dog has a part of like a pit bull in them, a Staffordshire Terrier or what have you. Um, it's just a shame that that's been the focus rather than all the positives that they do.
Yeah,
Um,
they're beautiful dogs, but they're extraordinarily strong. And I think that because of that, they were used for fighting a lot. So therefore they get this
yes.
bad reputation.
Yeah, and just the way that they're built, like, I don't know if you can, let me see if you can see her. Just the way that she's built. I mean, she's broad, you know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
she's got
Oh
some
yeah.
stuff to her there,
She's all
right? And
muscle and
she's all, oh my, I'll tell you what, I love massaging pit bulls because their muscles are so defined. I
sure.
love, I love it. They're right there. Um, but they're strong. But again, it's all how you treat them. Um, you know, just like you treat people, like you treat people with respect and you'll get that back. Same thing with the animals. You treat them with the utmost respect and they know,
Yeah.
and they know when people, I trust my dog's instincts 110% when it comes to, people or situations because
Yeah.
they just know.
That's great. And she gets along with your children.
Oh my gosh, she is laying with them, she is snuggling with them. She, and I think again, that's the misconception. I don't want a pit bull around my kids.
Yeah.
Just like, Tom thought, but in all actuality, they're like little nannies, watching out. I mean, she's very protective.
Yeah.
If someone comes to the door that she doesn't know, she's barking and she's growling for sure. But so, is any other breed out there because they're protecting the family.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's about taking their actions and not misconstruing it to something else.
Yeah. And I think that what you're saying is so important because I think that, based on, the last 45 minutes, we've learned about the fact that dogs that are rescued can be
Mm,
can turn out to be such wonderful animals. I think people love the idea of helping a rescue animal, but are afraid that all of a sudden they're going to get a rescue in the house and the dog is going to pee everywhere, or the dog is going to fight, or the dog is going to have so many issues they won't be able to deal with it. So I would say in that case, and tell me if I'm wrong, that find somebody who has fostered them, who has gone through that process and taken that initial step of getting those issues out of the way so you don't have to worry.
yeah, and that's what we've always done. If there was any issues when we brought in a foster, we would deal with it however we had to. And I think also when you rescue, understand that it's going to take time. I see a lot of people who rescue and then like 2 weeks later, it's not working out.
Right.
Like, are you kidding? Like, you need to give time. Remember the decompression, the adjustment period. It takes a long time, especially if the dog came from horrible situations prior. And I hear a lot of times too, people are like, well, I want to buy a puppy because I know what I'm getting.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Right. But don't. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know, especially you don't know where the breeding came from. You don't know, how many times the female's been bred. Is it inbred? Like, you don't know any of these things. And so, I would like to say, no, you never know what you're going to get. You have
Right.
children, you don't know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? I mean, be honest.
Well,
So
true.
it's all about just, again, I think being patient and kind and really letting the dog kind of take the lead for a little bit and just kind of understand. And unfortunately, some people don't. And it turns out to be a blessing for the dog because that was never meant to be their forever home anyway. So, you know,
That's great.
yeah.
I'm going to see if there's anything else on here that I haven't asked you about.
Oh, I know. We kind of were like all over the place.
Meditation and dogs. Tell us about
Oh,
that. I'm a
yeah.
meditator, so
So I love meditation, as you know. I think everyone should do it. And I know that there's a the biggest misconception that I see when I teach my workshops is people tell me I can't stop my mind from thinking.
exactly. Tell us why that doesn't matter.
It doesn't, because I always tell people your brain is meant to work and think. That would be like saying, okay, eyes stop working, lungs stop breathing, heart stop pumping. No, it's meant to think. So you don't want to stop. So the best way that I explain it is that imagine a blank canvas. You're a painter, and then you paint this beautiful picture all over it: flowers, trees, ocean, whatever. Beautiful pit bull. I don't know. Right. And those are all your thoughts. But behind those thoughts is really still that blank canvas. And meditation gets you back to that place of just blank canvas. And so, as you know, there's different techniques they can do. You can do mantras, you can do breathing, you could do, a whole bunch of different things. But I love meditation with animals because they are the original meditators, if you will, because they are so able to just relax and be in the moment, right? And so when you are meditating and then you invite your dog or your cat or whatever into that space with you, they will come and do it with you. And I think that is the most beautiful connection that you could possibly get with an animal, regardless, if it's yours or, what have you. But I think it's beautiful. And my goal moving forward is to actually start teaching that as well, the
That
meditation
would
with
be
your dog.
great, or to have workshops where people
Hmm.
bring their animals and do meditation,
Yes,
because meditation in groups is so much more powerful
it
than
is.
one-on-one meditation.
It is because, as you know, when you're in that group of people and you're all meditate, you can just feel
Yeah.
that energy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's amazing how people who have never tried meditation and then they do and they're consistent with it, how it really changes their
Oh,
life.
totally.
Like,
I could never go back to not meditating.
no, because you're in that, and that's, I think, what people understand. Life is so stressful and anxious and all of these things. Like, you're just, on edge all the time. And people have come to think that that's the norm. And it's not, it doesn't have to be.
Or they're
Like,
addicted to that.
right, right. Yes.
They wanna be in that stress.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, I mean, there is another side to life that's not so crazy
Oh my
if
god.
you allow yourself to do it.
That's really, really great. Oh, I love that. You bring that you wanna do that. So,
Yeah.
meditation, um, Reiki,
Mhm.
working in nonprofits like the American Cancer Society and the Red Cross, and now rescue.
Mhm.
It's so.
It's been a wild ride.
Huh?
It's been a wild ride,
Well,
and I think, th I've always wanted to work with animals in some capacity. That's always been, but, life just I held myself back. I think I told myself untruths and believed them, that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't good enough, all of these mindset things. And then I think, the personal development journey that started a couple years ago really changed everything for me,
oh,
and a situation happened in my life that I had to make a change. And sometimes the universe makes you change, you know?
totally.
And that's,
Absolutely.
that's when I started. Yeah, and that's when I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna do what I've always wanted to do, and I'm gonna learn how to massage dogs. I'm just gonna do it because I talked about it for so long." And so that happened. The same person who certified me and came on massage introduced me to Reiki, introduced me to meditation, crystals, all of it.
Oh,
So
I
it
got
and you know what? And I think back, honestly, I think about 15 years ago, I never would have been open to this. So,
yeah,
as I
it
mentioned before, it's all timing.
totally.
And I think the universe knew at that time, like a couple of years ago, I'm ready. And so
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
and things find you
They do.
when you're supposed to when you're supposed to, you know, have that meeting, they'll come to you.
Mhm.
You'll get it. They'll be
Yeah.
there. Knock on your door and you can.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
for
totally.
sure.
Absolutely. But you have to be open. I
You
think
do.
you have to just, you know, being closed-minded is not gonna do it for anybody. So you've gotta be
Right, right.
open to that possibility and accept it and see where it goes.
Mhm.
Have that
Yeah.
passion for it as you
Yeah.
had with the massage. Well,
Yes.
great. So we're
For
gonna
sure.
go to the lightning round.
Okay. Here we go.
A person that inspires you and why?
It's my mo Yes. So, a person that has inspired me forever has been my mother because she speaks her truth. She follows through on her word. Her integrity is outstanding, and she has always supported me no matter what. So, my mother, hands down, is someone that has inspired me forever,
That's great.
literally.
The best business advice you ever received?
Follow your passion, and everything else will fall into place. Simple, right?
You have to
Don't overcomplicate it.
yep, stick with it though.
Yes.
A lot
Yes.
of people don't. I
Yeah.
wonder.
Hmm.
I know. The best personal advice you ever received?
My best personal advice is to know that everything will work out in the end. It may not seem like it is at the time, and you may question everything that's going on, but just have the faith and trust that it will work out. Because every situation that you go through, it may be a challenge, but there's also an opportunity in that somewhere too.
I go along with that.
Hmm.
Okay, let's go to tech, an app that you can't live without. Is there one?
Oh my gosh, I love Canva. I love it. Where I create all graphics. Love it.
And I'm telling you, if you like Canva, you are gonna love royalty.
Okay, all right.
And if
All right.
anybody else is interested in learning about royalty, message me. I will tell you all about it and give you my link. Um, a person or account our our viewers should follow on social media, and why?
Okay, so obviously Rescue Dogs Rock because that's the rescue I'm with.
Right?
Absolutely. And also, if you're not familiar with Aladdin Nation, do you know about that?
No.
Aladdin Nation. Okay, so it's a pit bull again. They are one of the biggest advocates. His name is Laddie. Aladdin is the dog. You could go on their Facebook page and read his story. It's phenomenal. He is changing the way people are thinking about bully breeds. He's gone to insurance companies because some homeowners insurance won't allow bully breeds. He's changing their minds. I love Laddie. I love the page. I love everything
Oh,
about it. Aladdin Nation.
send me that link. How
Aladdin Nation.
wonderful.
Hmm. They're good people, and they're good people doing
That's
good things.
that's great. I love
Hmm. Yep.
it. A charity that people may not be aware of that's doing great things.
And because there's so many good ones,
Yeah.
out there. I think the one that I follow too is called Marley's Mutts. Are you familiar with them?
No.
They're out in California, and they bring in some of the most horrific situations, rehabilitate, and get the dogs adopted. They are phenomenal too. Marley's Mutts.
Okay. We're gonna have
Hmm.
all these links.
Yep.
All right. Last but not least, a book,
Hmm.
a lecture, an event, or a situation that really made a difference in your life.
I think two books specifically is I love the Four Agreements, one of my favorite books on just how to, you know, live life and eliminate those self-limiting beliefs. There are four agreements that you make with yourself. If have you read that book?
No,
The,
I know of it, but I've not read it.
it will change everything. And the other one is Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting by Lynn Grabhorn. It talks about, we talk about things into existence, but you actually need to feel them.
Oh yeah.
Right? Do you have that book?
I always
Oh,
bring up Joe Dispenza because it's all about
yeah.
you must have that feeling that it already happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, the connection just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, so those were one of the first two books that I read in the beginning of the whole, self-development journey. So
You'll
I
put
love
the
those.
links.
Hmm. For
We'll
sure.
have them all on LDTV Talk Scoop at
Hmm.
the show. That's so great.
Yeah,
Tina,
for sure.
this has been wonderful. What I'm doing also is creating shorts. So what I'll have you come back and we can do a short maybe about training or massage
Mhm.
or maybe things that people can do themselves
Yes.
to calm their dogs down or calm their animals down.
Yeah, there's different strokes that I can show you um
That would
that
be
you can just do it. So, yeah, that you can do at home. If you don't have a canine massage therapist, there's no one in your area, or you just need to do a couple things like you mentioned fireworks, there's different strokes that you can do to help calm them.
yeah. Are
Mhm.
you a fan of the Thunder shirt?
Um, it's an option. I think sometimes it works, and for me, it never did. But again, it all depends, on the dog. I mean, fireworks is a whole other,
Yeah.
topic of conversation and things like
Yeah.
that. But the thunder shirt is an option. I also think CBD is an option for
Yes.
dogs. That's a huge option.
Yeah.
Dogs and cats for sure. And I also think, the massage and the Reiki are also, combined, and aromatherapy is great too
Yeah.
for that.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I love it. Thank
I
you.
know. It's fun. The show is fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great, hour to really talk about and celebrate what you do and the good things that you bring to everybody else. So thanks for being here.
Well,
I'm going to
thank
say
you.
goodbye to you. I'm just going to wrap up for a couple minutes and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Lynn.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Oh, okay. Bye. So I don't know if any of you are inspired to go and check out more information about rescuing from a foster. But I think, what Tina said really makes a huge amount of difference in the process. If you're at all hesitant or don't want to go through what she does, but still wants to do such a great humanitarian thing in rescuing a dog, getting a dog from a foster home is just something that is not difficult. And there are thousands of them across the country. So anyway, before we leave, I always do something. I'm fanning, of course. And I mentioned it when Tina and I talked. If any of you out there have a small business, direct message me. I will give you the details on something that will take all the angst out of your marketing. So I will do that for you. So I am going to have another interview with Trevor Folgering. He is the ketogenic lifestyle coach. We're going to be doing that. We'll put it on LDTV Talk, but we're also going to put it on the Keto Diet Diva. That's where you'll probably see it first. For any of you who have more questions about following a ketogenic lifestyle. So I'll leave you with that. We'll see you next week. If you haven't had a chance to watch the entire episode, please go to LDTV Talk. You'll find it there on Facebook Live, and you can catch it. And of course, please feel free to drop comments so I can answer any questions or direct message me on Facebook. So have a wonderful week. Again, Happy New Year. Great to have you here. And we will see you again next Wednesday at 11. Okay?